Hello and welcome back to Coder Jams. I'm Jess.
And I'm Patrick, and today we're going to continue the C# tutorial series here on YouTube. Last episode we gave a brief introduction to the series, discussed variables and variable types, touched on writing comments, and then discussed that magic var keyword. Let's head over to Visual Studio and get a quick refresher on where we left off. So Jess has Visual Studio open, and so we kind of did this in order from top to bottom in our program.cs file. And so we started with that string name. Actually, we kind of inserted that. I remember now we inserted that above these right lines. So we actually started with writing the press enter to continue and other strings. Then we jumped into variable types like string being what?
My comment tells me,
Yep.
because I don't remember. This is the refresher I need.
Yep.
A string is a sequence of characters wrapped in double quotes. And
Yep.
double quotes are important. I didn't write this part because single quotes are used for other things.
And what? We covered that. Do you remember? We're going to get to
No.
that anyway. It's okay. That's all right. We're going to get to that. Yep. So string is any sequence of characters surrounded by double quotes. Then we got into integers. We left a comment here. Do you remember what integers were?
The whole numbers.
Whole numbers. Yep. Positive or negative. Then we got into floats and doubles. We don't need to go too far into that, but the basic idea is what about floats and doubles?
They can have a decimal point.
They can have a decimal point. That's right. Then we get into the single quotes and why they're important and what are they used for.
Oh, single characters.
Yep, chars. Yeah, single characters. So a char can't have a double quote. That would make it a string. And so if you tried to say like char answer equals and then put a in double quotes, you'd get an error. So these need to be single quotes. Yep, that's right. All right, Boolean. Boolean is a flag. What do those do?
True or false?
True or false? Yes or no? On or off? Yep. Then we got into that magical keyword var, and var is a inferred data type, and so that's based on assignment. So if we said var material equals true, then material is always a Boolean. And then if we change that to something like material equals a string of characters Patrick, we would get an error. And so what is the basic idea of like var and inferred data types? Is once you set them, once you assign it a value,
then you can't change the value of whatever that variable is.
you can change
later.
the value, but you can't change the type. Yeah.
The kind of variable that it is.
That's right. All right, great. So let's move on. So we are going to leave this console.writeLine. Mine's on line 42. I don't know what yours is on. We're going to leave that.
Mine is on 45.
45. Okay, we're going to put a couple white spaces above 45. And we're going to continue to write some code, but we want those last two console.writeLine and console.readLine. We want those to be at the bottom so that every time we run our program, it'll wait for some input.
Okay.
So, variable operations. Variable operations are things like basically math. Think of math. So we can do simple addition and subtraction, and we can use variables to change the data going in, but we don't have to change the structure of our math operations. So let's make a couple variables. We'll make x and y. This is almost the only time x and y are good variable names. So let's say var x, and then we'll do a little bit of magic here. Var x comma y.
Okay.
And then semicolon. And what this, well, you can't, equals 0, semicolon. And what this is going to do is declare two variables, x and y, initialize them as integers. And so if we hover over them, IntelliSense is going to tell us that these are both integers, and they both get assigned an initial value of 0. So this is just a quick way to create, declare and assign integer variables. It would be the same as saying var x equals 0, var y equals 0. Okay? So then if we wanted to get some, I have an error. Do you have an error?
Mm-hmm.
Unnecessary assignment of the value to y. All right, put int. int x comma y equals 0. I guess var doesn't like that. That's okay. All the rest of that is still true. These are two integers, x and y, both are set to 0. Okay, so now we're going to say var answer equals, and we'll say x plus y. And we already have answer. Answer was A. Let's put our var sum equals x plus y.
Okay.
We need x equals 0. We can't set them both to 0 like that. Var x equals 0, comma, y equals 0. And so then...
You got it.
We literally should have just said var x equals 0. Let's just do that. Var x equals 0, semicolon, and then next line, var y equals 0. This is what we were going to do anyway. We're just going to try to make it a little easier, but no need. So var x equals 0, var
Sometimes
y...
the easy way isn't the right way.
Correct, yeah. Let me know when ready.
Okay.
Good?
Oh, no, because I didn't put my semicolons. There we go. All right.
Okay, so this is basically just a simple math statement. And this statement says these three statements. The first one says create a variable named x and assign it 0. Next one, create variable y, assign it a value of 0. Third one says create variable sum and assign it the sum of x plus y. So the reason we do this is this shows that the plus here adds these two integers, right? So if we were to say console.writeLine here, and then we just output sum, it's going to just output 0, right? 0 plus 0. Agree?
Yeah, I'm
Typing. Yep.
I was refreshing my memory on how to get the predictive text, the one that I want, and it's tab.
Yep.
I was trying to remember that. That's why I had that blank look on my face.
No, that's okay.
But I got it now.
I bet you people watching are going to have pretty much the same trying to refresh your memory kind of thing going. All right, so that got you there. You have console.writeLine sum.
I do.
Okay, and then we can change some values and do this again and add them together. We would get the same thing. But we're going to talk about another use of that plus sign. And so if we write console.writeLine here, and then in parentheses, let's put a string, and we'll say the sum is, and then use a colon, which is, it doesn't matter, it's arbitrary. This is inside the string. But this is for basically output formatting to make it look nice. So the sum is colon space. Then out of that double quote, but still inside the parentheses, do a space plus space and type sum. And then we need to talk about this.
Okay.
Got it? All right. So we have the sum is colon space, get out of the quotes, space plus space, sum. And now when we run this, go ahead and run it. We should see all the output we had from last episode plus a 0 plus the sum is 0.
Yep.
You have that? Okay. So this shows the two of the uses of that plus sign. It shows that we can add two numbers together and assign their value to a variable, right? So sum equals x plus y. But it also does something called concatenate. It concatenates a string. So the sum is, in quotes, is a string. And then if we put plus something, it adds it to the same string and outputs the concatenation of that. Does that make sense?
What is the sum is
The sum is
doing?
Do you see it in the output?
So that just gives me the words later because they're in quotes.
Yeah, so we outputted hello world, press enter to continue in quotes, right? We put that through console.writeLine, and it output that text. In that other console.writeLine, we did the same thing, but we said the sum is, and all that does is makes it make sense to the reader.
Okay, so it's just telling me what 0 is, because in the line before that, it's just a number and it doesn't tell me anything, just like the ones that we did before.
Right. So now we can start dressing up the output.
We can start polishing.
Polishing, that's right. So we can say the sum is 0. So let's close that, or quit, or however you need to. Press the stop sign at the top left, I think.
Well, we told ourselves to push enter.
Yep, that's right. Press enter to continue. Yep. So the sum is plus sum, and that outputs the value of sum, but the string literal the sum is, right?
Okay.
And so now if we start doing things like using that plus sign on variables, we can do that. So let's drop a line from the sum is, and we'll say var first name, and we're going to camel case that, so it can be a lowercase f, but a capital N. Var first name equals Patrick.
Why do we camel case that?
For readability, when variable names get long, if they were all lowercase, it'd be kind of hard to tell. But with camel case, because you can't put spaces in variable names, so we camel case it, and that is a way to basically
make it easier to read.
Separate the words. Yep.
Okay.
So first name equals Patrick. Var middle name equals, or initial. Let's do middle initial. Nah, we'll do name. Doesn't matter. Equals Joseph. And then if we concatenate that, we'll say var formal name equals, and we'll say first name plus middle name. And once you have that, we can do a console.writeLine. Are you there?
Not quite.
Okay, well, I'll wait.
I'm doing formal name.
Okay, so formal name, first name plus last name.
I'm like trying to process as you're talking and listen, and then I'm trying to do it. So I'm listening to you while I'm following along.
Sure. I mean, we're essentially, we're making two more variables. They're both going to be strings. We're going to use var, which is an inferred data type, but then we assign strings to them, and that makes them strings. And then we're going to concatenate those. It looks a lot like var sum equals x plus y, right? Var formal name equals first name plus last name. But it does something different. Instead of taking the numerical values of x and y, adding them together and returning, it's going to take the string of first name and the string of middle name, put them together, and give them back to formal name. So how do you suspect this will look when we do a console.writeLine?
I suspect that there won't be a space between them.
That is correct. Yeah, that's where we were going with this. So console.writeLine formal name, and we can run, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to put all the stuff we had, but then it's going to print. Well, mine says Patrick Joseph. I assume yours is your name. Oh.
I don't know.
All right, here you go.
Oh, in quotes. Okay. I was just...
What's in quotes?
Or I'm sorry, parentheses.
In
not
parentheses,
quotes.
yeah.
I misspoke. All right, I got all my semicolons. Okay.
All right, so if you run it, then we will get the sum is that 0 that we had, and then it's first name, like you said, no space, and then middle name.
Yes.
You got that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll press enter to continue. All right, so that is an operation. The operand is the plus sign, and it functions in a couple ways. For numbers, it adds them together. For strings, it concatenates them. And minus does not have the same versatility. You cannot do, if you did first name minus middle name, it would not have the same effect. But we can do minus, multiply, divide, these things on numbers. So let's go ahead and do that. Sum we did. So let's do var. Well, let's change x and y. Let's scroll up. Or we don't have to scroll up, actually. Let's just assign them new values here. X equals, let's do 5, and Y equals 2.
Okay.
All right, and then we can say var, and we already have the sum, that's fine, so we want difference now. So difference equals X minus Y, and let's console.writeLine difference. And then we could dress it up to make it a little more legible. I'll wait.
Yeah, I'm just writing console.
That's all right. Console.writeLine difference. But instead of just difference, let's go ahead and do in quotes difference. And I'm just going to do difference colon space, and then outside of the quotes put a space plus space. We're still doing plus because we're concatenating strings, right?
Okay. So okay, I think I got it.
So we have the difference. Let's do the product. So var product equals X times Y, and times is that asterisk. Whoa.
Forgot my semicolon.
All right, so the product for multiplication is the asterisk. So like shift 8 will get you there. And then we can console.write that also.
Okay. Taking it all in.
A lot getting thrown at you all at once.
Well, I think I'm getting the hang of it. I just had to process it first before I jump in and do it.
Yeah, no problem. And repetition. I think repetition helps.
Yeah. A week between this stuff is a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, luckily, all we covered were like 3 variable types or 5 or something.
Okay.
All right, so you good here on product?
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to the quotient. So var quotient equals X divided by Y. And something interesting is going to happen here. So console.writeLine, and this will be quotient. Quotient. Okay, before well, I'll let you finish typing this, and then we need to write some comments.
Okay.
All set? Okay,
I
so
think so.
some comments. So above.
I'm gonna forget one of these semicolons one day.
That's all right. It's gonna tell you. Don't worry. It'll say I think like missing symbol or symbol expected. Anyway, so we'll do a comment above difference, and we will say. Let's just say what we think the output is going to be. So difference, colon, and we think this is going to be what? Now I'm making you do math.
Oh, 3.
3, okay. So then above product.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Product, colon, space, 10.
All right, and here we go.
Don't make me divide these two.
No, you got this. Quotient.
You do the division. Oh, I'm on the wrong line. Hang on. And I forgot to make it a comment. So it's all over the place. There we go. Did I spell that correctly? Quotient. Quotient, colon. You're really going to make me do that?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 and 1/2. 2.5.
2.5. Wait.
That's
all right.
not right.
Hold on. Hold on. That would be right in all of the rest of the world except here.
Oh, because they're, well, okay.
Wait, yeah. Go ahead. This is a trick.
I don't like the trick. Hold on.
So the trick is, do you know it? It's going to output 2.
Because there's no decimal?
Because there's no decimal, because it's an integer. That's right.
Ugh.
So let's run it now that the secret's out.
Now everybody really knows I'm not good at math in my head.
Well, nobody would expect you to be good at integer math. Integer math doesn't make sense. It doesn't round up or down. It just cuts off the decimal. We see?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, I see it. I got it.
So we have difference 3, product 10, quotient 2.
Yes.
Now let's go ahead and press enter to continue. And
Okay.
then we need to learn about this last little thing called the modulus operator. So let's comment modulo. I think it's modulus or something. Modulus. I think it's modulus, like that. And we'll put a colon, and I'm not going to put the answer yet, but we'll say var remainder, because we don't want to keep typing modulo or modulus or however you say it. Var remainder will equal x %, y. And this means give me just the remainder. And it'll be as an integer. So if we did x divided by y and it was 5 divided by 2, the quotient on an integer level would be 2. The modulo or the modulus or the remainder would be
1.
5. Oh, 1. Yeah.
Now who's bad at math?
Yeah, I was thinking like the 0.5. No, it's 1. Yeah, it's the remainder.
1.
So if we I'm pretty sure you're correct.
I
So
win.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put that there. Dot right line, and we'll say remainder, and then give that a plus and give that remainder. And if we run here, we should see quotient is 2. Oops, I have an L in there.
I think I've got it.
With a semicolon?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I remembered that. Remainder 1.
Remainder 1. You were right. So we don't have to just end the concatenation with 1 plus sign. So what we can do is move. You can press enter, or whatever you have to do to get out of that.
Quotient? Oh, gotcha.
So go on the line that we're going to move. We're going to move quotient. Just click on it anywhere in it. Mac is Option and Windows is Alt, so hold Option. And then arrow down, and it's going to move our line down. We're going to move it just under remainder. And then we're going to get rid of that remainder 1. Get rid of like the console.writeLine remainder. And then after the word quotient inside the parentheses, let's do a plus, space, plus. Now we're going to concatenate another string. So we're going to just build this string here. So it's quotient, colon space, end quote, space plus space, quotient, and then space plus space, start a new string. Now, like we saw with the first name, middle name, we're going to have no space, right? So we want to add a space first. So we're going to add a space.
Okay.
And we're going to say R or remainder. I don't know how you'd like to do that. Normally, like in math, I think it's just R.
I think it is R.
So R, I'm not going to put a space now. I'm going to just leave it with no space. So it'll be like 2 space R1, right? So I'm going to do space R and then no space after the R. Inside the quote, this is going to get a little confusing. Inside the quote, no space after the R. But out of the quote, spaces don't matter, but we want it to be there so it's easy to read. So space plus space.
Plus remainder.
And then remainder, exactly. And now when we run this, we'll see quotient.
I jumped ahead of you, and I had typed remainder first, and then I realized you wanted to label it.
Yeah, we wanted to
like
label it.
separate it out.
So I have 2 and then space R1, notifying that we have 2 with 1 remainder.
2R1.
Nice. Yeah, that is how we kind of use that % sign. Okay. So the name of that % sign, I mean, we could look it up. It's like modulo or modulus or something. Everybody calls it mod, M-O-D. So that is basically generally arithmetic on computer programming is is the plus sign, minus sign, which you're already familiar with. That's slash, which should already know is division. And then the asterisk, I assume you know. It was already multiplication. And then that percent sign, probably new.
Yes, that one is a new one.
All right, so that gets us through that. That is variable operations in a nutshell. All right, so we can do decimal math, and it's all the same. I mean, the only thing that changes is we don't have like the restriction on integers being whole numbers anymore, but we can do positive, negative. We can do decimal math, which we don't need to get into today because it's exactly the same, and I don't think going into float math is going to provide any value. It's all the same, right? If we do 2.5 times 2, it's going to give us 5, right? Okay, so that gets us through our variable operations. Now, we want to not have to keep typing all these things over and over again. So if we scroll up, we're going to see that we have a lot of things typed. So just on these operations, we said difference, var difference equals x minus y, and then basically print the difference, console.writeLine the difference. Then we said product, same thing, product equals x times y, and then print console.writeLine the product. Let's say we don't want to keep doing that. Let's say we want to, like if I wanted to get another product on, like I want to change x and change y and then get a new product, let's do that. So under console.writeLine quotient, make some spaces. So basically just above our output to wrap up the program. We're going to change x and y. So x is going to become 10 and y is going to become 20. Doesn't matter. And let's say we wanted to do all of this again, right? But we're not going to. We're just going to do one of them again. But let's say we wanted the difference again. So we're going to say difference equals x minus y again. And then we're going to print console.writeLine. Let's just copy and paste like all of the best programmers. That's a joke. Don't copy and paste.
I'm not.
No, we are. We are going to.
All right.
We are going to, but then we're never going to do it again. All right, so
copying the difference.
Difference. So like not the var keyword because we can only declare it once, but everything else. So difference and console.writeLine, and then we'll paste it under x equals 10, y equals 20. Let me know when you're done.
I guess I don't know how to.
Command C and Command V. Yeah.
I think I did Control.
Done?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so now let's go x equals 20 and y equals 30. Difference equals, and then let's just copy and paste again.
This
feels like a trap.
It does feel like a trap.
It is a trap.
Oh, wait, what does my y equal? 30?
Yeah. Does this feel very efficient?
No.
No. Here's what we can do.
I knew this was a trap.
It is a trap. We don't want to copy and paste a bunch of stuff. Now let's say I wanted to say, oh, hey, new requirement came in. I don't just want to say difference colon. I want to say the difference is every time. How many times do you have to change that?
Who knows?
Yeah.
At least 3.
At least 3. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is this thing called a function or a method, right? So let's talk about methods.
Okay.
Make a couple spaces, like enter, enter. And so type what I type, and then we'll talk about it. So type int space difference, and then in parentheses.
Do I need to capitalize it?
You don't. Well, it just it's a naming convention. You can capitalize it. Difference, and then or we would say like so functions and methods interchangeable. C# or C++ people would call them functions, and Java people would call them methods. They're functionally the same. I call them both. Anyway, so methods. I actually will stick with just calling them methods.
Okay.
Methods are actions. Methods do something. They don't always have to give me something back, but they need to perform some reusable task. Methods should do one thing. You don't want a method to do all of the, like, get the difference, get the sum, get the quotient, get the product. We only want to do one thing. So this one's going to be difference. It's an action. So calling it difference is okay, but that's more like a variable name. Get difference or calculate difference. These are verbs. These are actions. So methods are actions. So we're going to change this to get. And also camel casing, but this is called Pascal casing with a capital first letter, and then all the rest of them start with a capital letter. Inside of the parentheses, we need to provide two values. So we'll say int A, comma, int B. And then out of the parentheses, we need something called an opening curly brace or bracket. And then we'll press enter. And that should drop us down a little bit.
Okay.
So did it drop you down like opening curly brace and then kind of indent your cursor? Perfect. We're going to do something called, so let's say var difference equals A minus B. And then we will return difference. And then we're going to talk about it. So let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So methods have, all methods have like an access modifier is what it's called, which we'll talk about last. It has a return type, it has a name, and it has an optional set of parameters, okay? So the return type here is int. What this means is every time I call this method, I can call it as many times as I want. Anytime I call this method, I expect to get an int back every time.
So we're telling it that we want a number.
We want a number, yep.
Okay.
Get difference is its name, and that's how we call it. We call it from anywhere in this file using its name. So get difference is the name. It's arbitrary, just like variables. We call it whatever we want. Inside the parentheses, we have a parameter list. And so this specific method takes two parameters, A and B. And then we have to tell the method what kind of parameters we're expecting. So int and int, they are unrelated to the return type. We are just choosing to have ints put in here. And then we're going to operate on these ints. And then we name these parameters A and B, and they are what we are using inside of the method body. So that first line, int get difference, and then the parentheses, this is called the method signature. And this is basically like, if we were to look at a high level, this is how we can see the, like, we don't care about the implementation of this method. We only care that what its name is, what kind of parameters does it take, and what does it return. And that's what the signature tells you. Okay?
So the int A and int B.
Yep.
Is that just giving an example, or I don't know. In the curly brackets, we are explaining what those A and B are?
We are just explaining.
Numbers?
Yep, we're explaining in the curly brackets, we're explaining how this method will work with these parameters.
So I'm looking for the difference,
yep.
A minus B, and it's going to give me the difference.
It's going to return the difference, yeah. And that return, if we click return, or we click difference, I mean, it should highlight int, and it's not. But anyway, that's returning.
Mine says int difference.
Yeah, it's returning that int. So now if we go above here and like go above the method and say var not var, just difference equals, we're going to say get difference, and in here we're going to put 40 and 50. Difference equals get difference, and then in the parentheses 40 comma 50 with a space. I put a space.
Always a space, so it's pretty.
Yeah. And then a semicolon at the end.
Okay.
And this is calling a method, get difference. If we hover over it, it's going to show that method signature that we were just talking about. Int, get difference, int A, int B, right?
Okay.
40 is A. 50 is B.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If we call this again with two...
So it's just, that is how we use it. I think I was confused about calling it int A and int B.
Yeah.
But it's just basically like fill in these
Yeah.
blanks.
This is saying, the method is saying I want two parameters, and when you give them to me, I'm going to call it A and B. That's just what this is saying. We can name it anything. It could be X and Y. It could be... but
Except we already use X and Y.
No, doesn't matter. That's scope, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
But it could be anything. We're naming them A and B in this method, and then A and B is not used outside of the method. We can still use A and B outside of the method. Does that make sense? Because of scope, which we haven't covered yet, so that doesn't have to make sense.
Well,
but
this is making a little bit more sense now.
The A and B thing and methods, that is what needs to make sense.
So the int get difference, int A, int B, that is how we are going to put it into the code, wherever.
Right.
And then the curly brackets, that is what it's actually doing.
Yep. And so take your mouse and like kind of just go from one curly brace to the other, like highlight them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's highlighted is called the method scope. This scope, anything inside the curly braces is accessible in this scope. It is not accessible outside of the scope. Scope is a funnel. It goes inward. It doesn't. You can't go back out. So, for example, let's not get into scope yet. Let's cover methods. See, this is why I need a book, because I don't want to. I want to keep this very linear. So
stay on track.
Stay on track. Methods.
Okay.
Scope is very important, but you don't have to know scope to understand methods, but you have to understand methods to understand scope.
Okay.
So, all right. So int get difference, int A, int B. Okay. Under that, so under the last curly brace, I want you to write get product. So tell me what you're writing. I want a method to get product, so I don't have to keep typing. Oh, wait, time out. We don't, okay, so the purpose of this method is we don't want to keep writing difference equals something console.writeLine. We want to make this reusable. Right now it's not doing that because we're returning an int and then we're writing console.writeLine. So let's put, let's change this.
Okay.
Which means we have to talk about this very strange thing called void. All right. So you know the data types for variables, right? Return types on methods are all the same except void. Void is weird. So void, let's change int on the return type to void, V-O-I-D. Void means nothing. Void means don't give me anything, right? So
okay.
When we return is fine, but we don't want to return an actual value. We want to just return. And if we don't return by the time we get to this last closing brace, then it just returns automatically. So we can actually get rid of return. But just so you know, we can return at any point using the return keyword, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Trying to keep up.
All right, so void.
Void will return nothing.
Expects nothing. No return.
Okay.
Void is just letting the signature know you're not going to get anything back. It's just going to do stuff, right? We still do want to do stuff. We want to calculate that difference, but then we want to print the difference. So let's go ahead and copy for the very last time console.writeLine difference equals difference, and let's paste it into our method. So we'll copy it, and then we'll paste it under var difference equals a minus b. So then console.writeLine. And now we don't get difference is kind of saying like, hey, I'm going to call you and I want you to give me something. I want to get difference. That doesn't apply here, right? Maybe do something like calculate difference is what we should call it, I think. So let's change get to calculate. So now we have a method void calculate difference, and then it takes two parameters, a and b, and they're both integers. Then it calculates that difference and it displays it. Now we can get rid of a bunch of code. We're going to have the same output. We're just going to start replacing some of this stuff. So our first difference is up here, right under the 5 and the 2. Mm-hmm. Let's delete all of that. So like var difference equals x minus y, and then the console delete that and just type calculate difference x, y. All right, and then we're going to copy that because we are going to replace it. Oops. We're going to copy that because we're going to replace it a couple times down here, right? Because we have some errors because we got rid of difference, right? And then we're going to paste it under that x equals 10 and 20, and then our x and y equals 10 and 20, and then x and y equals 20 and 30. Let's paste it there. And then we'll paste it to replace that 40, 50. So we had x equals 10, y equals 20, calculate difference, x and y again.
Hang on.
Okay.
I'm replacing the 40, 50.
So the 40, 50, I kind of kept. So the thing is, the only benefit here to showing it the way we're showing it, especially this one here with like x equals 20, y equals 30, calculate difference x, y, and calculate difference 40, 50. This part is probably the most important only because it shows that we can pass in variables and we could pass in literals. So x and y are variables representing 20 and 30, but calculate difference 40, 50. 40 and 50 are integer literals that we're passing in, and all of that is still becoming a and b. X is becoming a, and 40 is becoming a, right? But separately. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's what makes it reusable code. So when we call calculate difference, what's happening is for a, it's like we're declaring new stuff. Int a equals whatever was x, which was 20. Int a equals 20. Int b equals 30. Var difference equals 20 minus 30. Console.writeLine, and it writes that, gets to that last curly brace and frees up that memory. Boom, that stuff is gone now until we call it again. Then it initializes brand new stuff. Int a is new, and it is 40 now. Int b is new, and it's 50 now. It has no recollection of that x and y from before. Does that make sense? The nice thing about that is it's reusable code that we don't have to worry about like before. We had int x equals 5, int y equals 2. Now we have x equals 10, y equals 20. What if we forget to set a variable? Or what if we forget to update a variable? That stuff all has memory. It's like persistent. When we call this function, we know every single time that it's brand new. It's only in the scope of what we're using.
Okay, so when you say when it reaches the end of the curly bracket, that you're just talking about once it finishes what it's supposed to do when you call that method.
That's right.
Okay.
And then
because I'm looking at these and I'm like, I don't have curly brackets up there, but I got it now.
Yeah. So
can I circle back to the void?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yeah. Yep.
So is that the purpose of the void is that we have to put this in here, but we don't want it to do anything with that. So that's just like behind the scenes kind of thing. It's not going to give us anything on this particular part, like our method, but we want to use that method other places. So am I making sense?
Sort of. I think the only disconnect here is that thing about the return. So void just says, don't give me anything back. Instead of saying var difference equals calculate difference, which we would expect it to give us something back, we're not saying that. We're not saying anything equals calculate difference. We're just calling calculate difference. If we run this program, go ahead and run it so we can see what it's doing. If we run this program, we're going to get a bunch of difference, colon, space, somethings, right?
Yeah, I got a bunch of negative 10s.
Yeah, because we did like 10 and 20 and 20 and 30. That, probably should have done a couple different things here. But the point is, it's stepping through this method from the beginning every time we call it. So every time we call it, it's going to say var difference equals our inputs. So the first ones were, looks like difference is 3. So that was the 5 and 2. It's going to say var difference equals a equals 5, b equals 2. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Sets that in difference and then prints it. Right? So difference 3. Okay. Gets to that last curly brace. Everything goes away. I mean, like in memory, in our computer's memory, where A used to exist, that's gone now. A doesn't exist anymore until we call it again. Now we calculate difference again. A is brand new. Int A equals, and then I think our next one was, 10, right? Because we passed in X as A. So int A equals 10, B equals 20, difference equals 10 minus 20, gives us that first negative 10 that we got, and then it prints it. Difference, negative 10.
Okay.
So void only means no need, actually don't return anything. Not just no need, but don't do it. If you try to return something, you'll get an error. You can return semicolon, meaning like just end, right? Because let's say, go ahead and enter out of here. Let's say for some reason we wanted to conditionally, which we'll get into conditions, but not yet, conditionally not say console.writeLine. We could just return before then. There's no error, but now that console.writeLine will never happen. So go ahead and type return under difference and then press run. It's not an error. It's going to give us a warning. But now we're not going to get any differences. Right? It doesn't show any differences. The function, the method is returning before we get to that line. It just makes it dead code. Eventually, we'll start adding conditions like if something, go ahead and print. Otherwise, don't. Right now, we're just saying don't print. So let's go ahead and enter through that. Get rid of our return. And now say the requirement just came through. Change all of the differences to the differences. That's a new requirement. Walk us through it.
Change all of the differences
We are saying difference, colon, space, the difference, whatever it is. We're saying that like 4 times. But I want all of them to be the difference is. New requirement came in. How do we do it?
Oh, God. Give me a minute. Have you shown me this yet?
So, like in the console, when we run the program, it says difference, colon, space, negative 10. Right?
Okay, so
I want it to say the difference is colon, space, negative 10.
I can change it in my method.
Yep. Okay, tell me what we're doing.
Go to the line that says console.writeLine.
Yep.
And then where it's in quotes, where it says difference, you want it to say the difference is?
The difference is colon, space. Yeah.
Okay. You're going to write the after the quotation mark, space, the difference, space is, colon, space, and then, you can leave the rest of it.
So let's go ahead and run it. And we changed it 1 time, but on our output, we changed it 4 times. That is the power of reusable code. And in this small scale of 80 lines or whatever we have, we really only changed 4 lines, like 4 output lines. But imagine in a grand enterprise scale application, that's how important that is. So that's the bread and butter of methods. All right. So we can get out of that.
I have a question.
Sure.
The only time ever that I didn't put a semicolon was at the end of the void calculate difference int A, int B. Did you put one there?
No, because we don't. That's a good point.
We don't want it to end there. This is the first time we've had multiple lines doing one thing.
That's right.
We've been doing a lot of short lines, I guess. So, I did put semicolons within the curly brackets at the end of my lines, but then not at the end of int A and int B.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So do you see this, you have a minus sign next to yours too, right next to void, right? If you click that, it goes down to just the signature. It's collapsing that whole scope, and now it's basically something you would put a semicolon at the end of, but we're not going to. But we can expand it out. This is not a statement. This is a signature. Statement is like a real word in programming, and var difference equals A minus B semicolon, that's a statement. A statement says this. Could be multiple lines, but a statement is a direct sentence basically. It's one step in an algorithm or a series of instructions that we're telling the computer to do.
Okay.
method signature is not a statement. It's a declaration of, like, hey, compiler, I'm going to be using. I know you hear we have a dog and she's crying because she's in the bedroom.
I was thinking about. I didn't just say it. I declared it.
I declared it. I thought you were laughing at Riley over there. Yeah. So we are not just saying that bankruptcy. We're declaring it. It's an office reference. Anyway, so void. Calculate difference, int A, int B is like a declaration of a method. Then the method body is following in curly braces. Then the body itself has statements that are now reusable every time we call the method. All right, now you are going to run us through product. I want a way to print the product of a given A and B or whatever multiple times. I want a reusable chunk of code for product.
Okay.
Run us through it.
Am I going to do void again?
Yep. We are not going to return anything.
Void.
Yep.
You can do capital, I guess. Calculate. Wait. Calculate product with a capital P.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what you said that was called. It's not camel if it starts with a capital.
I think Pascal. Pascal. Yeah, Pascal case. That doesn't matter if you know that or not. It's just something I learned a long time ago. I could be off. It might not be Pascal, but that's like college stuff, like stuff you don't ever use.
Okay. Calculate product and then parentheses.
Just for the record, I'm not dropping like flexing college. I don't think college is even necessary for this industry. I'm just saying it's stuff that. She has college too, by the way. I'm not trying to flex that. That sounded like a flex.
I remember random stuff from college also.
That's what I'm saying.
Just like, it's like you don't know why you remember it, but you do.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to say anything else. Anyway, yes. Go on.
Anyway, back to me. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
back to
very
you.
Interesting.
Calculate product.
Calculate product. Can I do int A and B again?
You may do whatever you want. Yep.
Okay.
So you want to do int A and B?
A, yeah, comma, space, int B.
Okay.
Parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna do the curly bracket. Open. Oh, JK. Hold on. It's not going down a line.
You got press enter.
Oh, I didn't do that last time. I don't think.
You did.
Okay, maybe I did. Okay. Var space on the next line. I guess I pressed enter. So in between the curly brackets now.
Mm-hmm.
Var space product space equals space. And then we're going to do A space asterisk.
Yep.
Space B.
Times B. Yep. You don't have to keep saying space anymore.
Well, it's too late.
Okay. You're welcome to
I'm
keep
too
saying
far
space.
in.
All right.
I'm explaining everything.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Semicolon. And then we're going to return. And we want it to show us the product.
That's right.
So, console dot writeline, and then in parentheses and quotes, I want to do the product is colon space quotation marks, and then outside the quotation marks another space plus product. Outside of the parentheses, another semicolon. So I told it what I wanted it to do, and then on the next line, I'm telling it to show me the product is, and then whatever the product is.
Yep. And so if we were to use this method, because since we haven't called it right now, it doesn't run. If we press execute, nothing will, we won't see this product thing.
Okay.
So if we want to use it, let's go ahead and replace this product up here.
Oh, X and Y.
Does that make sense? We're calling the method that you just made, and we're passing in X and Y. X and Y will become A and B inside the method. Some things will happen, and life will keep on going. It'll come out of the method and the program will continue to execute.
Hold on.
Do you have an error?
Yeah. But I don't... Did I...
You probably don't have a semicolon after product in your method. Do you have a semicolon at the end there? Where's...
Yeah.
All right.
The name calculate product does not exist in the current context.
Did you put calculate product inside of calculate difference?
Ha! I did it. No, I didn't. Oh, because I have a spelling error.
IntelliSense for the win.
Yeah. Now it's got it. I spelled it wrong in my method.
But not when you used it?
But not when I used it. Not when I called my method. Okay.
All right, so if you run this now.
2 T's in Matthews. All right, let me run it.
It used to just say product colon, and now if your method is running, it should say the product is colon.
The product is colon 10.
Yep, there we go. All right, we have that's basically it on methods. We got method. We have methods. Generally, we have like an overview of methods. There's so much more to get into with methods, but that's the general idea, right?
Okay.
So, just so you know, methods are they're actions, right? They're verbs. They do things, right? And console.writeLine, writeLine is a method written the same way. So classes we'll get into, console is a class, but writeLine is a method in that class, and we're just calling it. The same way that we created calculate difference and then called it, somebody else created console, they wrote a method in their writeLine, and we're calling it. So we can do that. And I mean, we can make our own methods. We can use other methods like, so .NET we'll talk about eventually. .NET is a framework that provides a ton of methods, and it's got this whole CLR, like a common language runtime, so all of these other languages can be interwoven and work together. And then it's got like a base class library, which is like all of these classes that we get to use, console being one of them, system being another one. So we're not going to use so much of them right now, but just so you know, most of the things we're going to write in the beginning have already been written and kind of shared so that everybody can use them. So that is a general overview of variable operations and functions. Any questions about any of that?
Not right now. I think I at least got that part down.
Okay. 4 things that every method has, and one of them we just touched on, so it's okay if you don't remember, but what are the other 3? I'll give you the first one. The first one is the access modifier, which I said we would talk about later. We would talk. I said it originally, and I said we'll talk about it later because it just isn't important right now. That's the first one. We didn't write it down. This one has an access modifier, but we'll talk about those later. What are the other 3 things that every method has? So the signature has all of the components that I'm asking about.
I don't know what they're called, but...
What is void?
Okay.
Or int?
That is the variable?
It's called the return type of the method.
Okay.
The return type, okay? That's okay. Let's type this above our method, above difference. So, so the structure of a method, and then put like dash, it's called a method signature. And then in like a square bracket, put access modifier, because we didn't really talk about that. So that's in a square bracket, which in programming, most things that are in square brackets, like in comments and whatnot, that means optional. Means something else in actual code, but in this comment, it's in square brackets, it's optional. We don't have to write the access modifier. But the next thing is called the return type, and we're going to do it like Pascal case, return type. right?
Okay.
And then we're going to say method name. That's the next thing every method has. And then in parentheses, we will say ... parameters ... or maybe parameter list. Let's say parameter list. Nah, let's just say parameters.
Are you sure?
Yeah, list also means something. So let's not, I just don't want to get confusing. So this is what every method has. And then of course it has the method body. So structure of a method, and this is called the method signature. Every method has a return type, a method name, and parameters. Or optional. Let's put those in square brackets, because you can also have an empty parameter list. This can just be open, closed. What that means is we can't use anything passed to the method because nothing is actually passed to the method.
What?
Yeah, let's do that real quick. It's okay. Let's
say that again.
Yep, I'm going to. So let me find somewhere, I guess right here at the end. Let's make a new method under calculate product, and we're going to say void.
Okay.
And we're going to say display instructions. And display instructions is going to say console.writeLine. And then we're going to say press enter to continue. And I like to do like ... And then we'll say console.readLine, right?
Wait, console.writeLine.
It's basically this.
Press, oh. Okay.
And then we'll get rid of this, and we will call display instructions. And so what we're doing here, I'll wait until you're done, and then I'll explain it. All right, and what we're doing here, so we made a new method. Return type is void, meaning we don't return anything, right?
Okay.
Agree?
Yes.
Under read line, let's put return. Just so we can see that on returning nothing, we can still return, but we're actually returning nothing. Just return semicolon, meaning we're not returning anything. So, void, return nothing. Method name, display instructions. Parameter list, and empty, right? Empty. We don't have parameters coming in. It means we can't operate on these parameters. There are none. But it doesn't mean we can't do things. We can still do things. And so what we're doing is display instructions. Now if we run this program, it's going to look eerily familiar, right? Like it doesn't say hello world anymore, but it still does that. Press enter to continue, waits for user input. We press enter and it ends. Right?
My display instructions didn't. Oh, is that because I didn't put parentheses there?
Do you have like an error or something?
I did, but I didn't have the parentheses.
Parentheses,
after
okay.
Display instructions.
Let's call it 2 more times. So copy and then paste. Just so having a method makes sense and it's worth having, right? Why have a method if you're only going to call it once? All right, so now when we run, we press enter to continue. And then it's like, nope, do it again. Press enter to continue. Do it again. Press enter to continue. Now you can be done, right?
Okay.
So now we have reusable code that wraps up our program. But that's what I mean by an optional parameter list. We don't have to have parameters in here, but we can.
Okay.
So that's why, all right, so a method signature has 4 things. First one I'll give to you, access modifier. What are the other ones?
The return type.
Return type.
The name.
Method name.
And I wrote the other one, the parameters.
Parameters.
Which are optional.
That's right. And then there's a method body, but that could be empty also, especially if it's void. If it's not void, it can't be empty. Anyway, all right. So that covers what we wanted to cover. How long did we go on the stream?
An hour and 9 minutes.
I think that's an okay place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to overwhelm the brain. Any questions about what we covered?
Not right now. No.
All right. Well, I think we covered what we wanted to, so that'll wrap up today's episode. Yeah, I don't know. We didn't really discuss how to wrap these episodes up. So, I'll just do
the end.
I'll just do the old faithful. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We updated the channel, so now we have the information on our website, which isn't all the way up to date yet, but we're working on it. It's got our Twitter that we just created, a Facebook page that we just created, Patreon, lots of ways to reach us. So that's all for today, right? We'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.